name's kind of like a sense of urgency. A lot of people don't see the results of their actions. So it's kind of like the thought, if you had a deadline, could you fix those actions that you did? Actually, to be honest, I heard it in business class or something in school. I heard the 3 days grace period, you know, is the period to pay back your debts. You have 3 days to pay your debt or else, whatever that means. But it also, you know, it does have that sense of urgency of, oh shit, I better figure this out, you know. So it seemed to just fit the music at the time, and it stuck. You know, that's going back to like 97, 96, yeah.
Really hard time coming up with names, and we were making our first record, and this just got thrown at us as far as changing our name. So it started becoming just silly at that point.
It got silly.
We'd all come in with our lists, and nobody could agree on anything, and we were all getting kind of pissed off about it, actually. And then during this time, Keith was reading this book on Chuck Berry's life, and
there you go.
Boom.
There's an interview in it where he says labels can, the suits, the business people in the business can do whatever they want if they think they can make money out of it, including turn your name inside out, like Buckcherry. And I read that, and I thought, how appropriate.
And we just wanted a name that was really easy to remember, and so that's how it was born.
We just made it one word and moved on.
Well, it's worked out for you so far.
So far, so good.
The name of the band comes from a song off your first album whose lyrics describe a man preparing to commit suicide.
Bam. Fact.
Fact, okay.
Yeah.
Fact already. Very good.
We had the record deal before band name.
Yeah, that's a little interesting little tidbit.
Is that true?
There. Yeah,
Really?
we got signed and we had no band name.
Wow. What were some other ones that you were tossing around?
Black Cauldron.
Black Cauldron of Death, I think it was.
Dungeons and Dragons, but that was taken.
Second edition, also taken.
Yeah, Thaco was a good one. There was a lot of crappy ones, but we took the crappiest.
The band name Hinder. Who wants to tell a story on how that came to be?
Well, that's back in 2001. We were starting to get gigs, and we had all these songs, and we were just actually really frustrated because we didn't have a name, so we just looked up frustrated in the source and found Hinder. So that's the short and skinny of it.
Okay. So it
is lame. That's lame. Yes.
It's a story there. So you guys could have been frustrated.
Yeah,
we're in the two of us with frustrated.
Doesn't have the same ring to it, does it?
No, not really. Halestorm, the name. Obviously, a couple of you kind of have a similarity with that one. How did it actually come to be, though?
Let's see, RJ.
Well, we were 10 and 13 when we got booked our very first live show, because we've been jamming together forever, you know, growing up, and then it was like the most exciting thing. It was a Schuylkill County fair with like pig wrestling and hay bale tossing and bonsai, you know, Pennsylvania things, you know. And we were just on our way to the show, and we're just like, man, we gotta think of a
band name,
something to introduce ourselves with. We're like, you know what, we don't want to just be Lizzie Hale and RJ Hale, Hale family band.
Thought about bonsai, but that didn't work.
Yeah, that was before.
That was
before time travel.
Yes.
And then we were just like, well, I don't know. We've always been teased in school, like we would walk into class, they'd be like, the Halestorm's here. So we're just like, take that, you know.
Yep.
Now we're Halestorming. We haven't changed it since.
Yep. So now kind of back in their faces, huh? Halestorm,
yeah, you know.
You're not teasing me anymore.
We had the last one.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly.
Still laughing.
Now you had your...
Where did the name Skillet come from? I think that's probably a question. You know, were you cooking one day, and is that where it came from?
No, actually, Skillet was started because when we started our band, all the band members were from different bands, and it was kind of like a side project. And somebody said, "Hey, it'd be cool, be like taking all these different ingredients and throwing it in a skillet, man." And we were like, maybe we'll call it Skillet. It's dumb.
A Flyleaf is a blank page at the beginning of the book, and at the end of the book, it's a blank page where people, you know, take notes and regurgitations and stuff. It's that moment of clarity just before the story begins, and that moment of clarity just after it ends. So it's just like just before you're born and just after you die.
The moment of clarity, I guess, is the Bible says that before I formed you in the womb, I knew you in the womb. And so it's like that moment with God, and then the moment after you die, like when you meet God or whatever.
There was a few other band names before we chose Simple Plan. Something with Touchdown 66, which is I'm so glad we didn't go. There was like an Ocean's 12 thing, which is awful. So Simple Plan was the one. It's funny because we were making our early demos, our early recordings, and our producer friend that was helping us out saw a movie the night before called A Simple Plan, and he said that would be a cool band name, and we had a show coming up, our first show coming up. We didn't have a band name, so we had to go with that one, and we figured we'd change it later, but we never did. So thank you to the movie A Simple Plan. We stole that from the movie. It's a great name.
Well, you guys recently just come on scene here. My Darkest Days, just say where that name came from.
Well, we just found with half of the songs, usually we write the best tunes on our darkest days, so just made it more personal and called it My Darkest Days.
We play with a lot of bands, and one of the questions everyone asks is, where did you get your band name? Some background, just the short version of where it came from. I was studying a play, and in that play, someone made a decision and they sent out faulty airplane parts during the war, and 21 pilots died because they sent them out. Then that person who sent them out as the main character, he tried to justify why he sent those parts out. And he ultimately ended up committing suicide at the end of the play. And it is a constant reminder how we apply it kind of to our band, and every night that we play, it's a constant reminder that you have to make the right decision even though it may be the hard decision.
Where did you get the name Disturbed? How did you come up with that?
It's a name that I have had brooding in my subconscious for a while, and it goes hand in hand with the name of the album, which is The Sickness. And The Sickness is a philosophy of individuality and development of self, and finding those things in life that you can be passionate about and bring meaning. And unfortunately, in today's society, when you distinguish yourself as an individual, people think that there's something wrong with you, and you're sick or twisted or disturbed, if you will. And it's that state of things that disturbs us.
Okay, now how did you guys come up with the name Blink-182, and is it too late to change it?
It is too late to change it. We were just Blink, and there was another band called Blink, and so the label called us up and said, you have to change your name. And we said, okay, let us think about it, we'll call you back. So 2 weeks later, they called us back. We said, we haven't decided yet, call us back. They called us back again. Finally got to the point where they said, if you don't choose the name of your band on this phone call, we're going to choose one for you. So we were like, all right, Blink 182. And we just made up the 182, and ever since then, we've made up different stories all the time about 182 means. It was my ideal weight. It was the ship number that my grandfather worked on in World War II.
Ooh, I like that one.
It was the number of times that Al Pacino said "fucking Scarface." And I was actually at a dinner the other night, and there was a guy that I was sharing a table with, and he said, so Blink-182, I heard that you called it 182 because of the number of times that Al Pacino says "fucking Scarface." I was like, yeah, that's one of the stories we tell. And he's like, well, I'm Al Pacino's agent, and I told him that story, and he thinks it's great.
Oh my
So yeah.
You just got so much street cred.
Yeah, I got the thumbs up from Al Pacino, so all y'all.
When I was hanging out with one of my friends back then, he was interested in starting a sort of heavy metal fanzine, and he had come over to my house one day and asked me, he had a list of about 15 or 20 different heavy metal, names, and he asked me which ones of these I thought he should call his magazine. So I looked over the list and saw all these, heavy metal this, heavy metal that, blah, blah, blah. And the name Metallica was on there, so I thought that was quite a good name. So I quickly thought to myself that I should steal that from him. So I just took that and basically told him to call his magazine something else, which he then did. And then when I finally got my own band together, I called it Metallica.
This is the Breaking Benjamin that came out with Saturate, We Are Not Alone, all of the albums the band's known for. That's actually the second version of Breaking Benjamin. There was an earlier version of Breaking Benjamin that played like more mellower songs. The only thing that's the same is the band name. Breaking Benjamin started as a band called Plan 9, like Plan 9 from Outer Space. People kept calling it Planet 9. We're like, no, just Plan 9. So from the first Breaking Benjamin, the very first one that played like softer rock, like Weezer, we played songs like that. We had a roll of stickers. And so I'm like, hey, I have this roll of stickers. Let's just call the band Breaking Benjamin. We already have stickers. And that's how we named this version of Breaking Benjamin, because of a roll of stickers we had left over.
Is that true about your name? The French thing, Foo, fire, firefighter?
Kind of, well, firefighter?
Well, he was saying that the Foo is French slang for fire or something.
It is. And I think that in World War II, the Royal Air Force, the English Royal Air Force, saw weird flying balls of fire in the sky, and they would chase them, and they didn't know what they were, and they never caught them, so they called them Foo Fighters.
What are they, though?
Well, nobody knows.
Ooh, nice. And is these pictures all over your single cover and all over your set, are they flying patterns then?
Evidently they are. Yes, they are. Yes.
Okay, well, we've vectored that and we've established that. Excellent.
There's a lot of great things in the documentary, back and forth, but there's one moment at the very end of the documentary, I thought it was over, I'm just about to turn it off, when actually there's a snippet of you, Dave, saying, if I thought the Foo Fighters was ever going to be this big, I'd have come up with a better name for the band. Are you not impressed with the name Foo Fighter?
You know, I'm really happy with what's happened over the last 16 years. We're really lucky, and I love being in this band. But honestly, Foo Fighters is like the stupidest band name you've ever heard. It's a horrible name.
What's with the language tonight?
I don't know. It's I mean, the reason why I called it Foo Fighters was because the first thing that I recorded was, I did it by myself, and I played all the instruments. I played drums and guitar and bass and sang, and I made this cassette, but I didn't want people to know it was me, because I didn't want people to think like, oh, that guy from Nirvana is trying to start another band. So I just called it Foo Fighters because it sounded like a group of people.
Right.
Like, yeah, and I had read it in a UFO book or something like that.
But there are band names that you, like, what do you guys think are the quintessential cool band names?
Like Rush. Queen.
When I was a kid. Queen.
The
Rush.
Ramones.
Ramones is a great band name. Styx.
Air Supply.
Where did the name Puddle of Mudd originally come from?
Yeah, it came from the Missouri River underneath the Kansas City Bridge is where the band started at.
Okay, so that's where it started?
And it was a flood in 1993, so it was just like the whole practice hall was underwater. It was just nothing but a big puddle of mud.
And then that was it? You
That was
guys
it.
look at each other and you're like, got an idea right
Man,
now.
we're rehearsing in a big puddle of
Who is Alice and why is she in chains?
All right. There's a great story about that. It's a name that Lane and some friends came up with. The myth is, I think him and some buddies were, when they were really young and they were teenagers, they wanted to have a death metal band that played really heavy music, but they wanted to dress in drag, so they needed a hard word and a soft word. So Alice in Chains is where, I think that's where the initial thing came. People ask that all the time.
A great grandma, and her name is Pearl. And she was at one time married to an Indian chief who, in a wonderful crossing of cultures, she integrated some of his into some of hers, and it was the combination of like peyote and preserves, and it was this hallucinogenic jam. It was Great Grandma Pearl's jam, which I still don't have the recipe.
Yeah, I could actually tell you a good one for Bowling for Soup, and then we can rewind a little bit as far as band names are concerned. We were going to call our band Rubberneck, but a band called the Toadies released an album like right as we were about to play our first show, and their album was called Rubberneck. So it came down to either Sizzle Chest or Bowling for Soup, and Bowling for Soup seemed to be the better one. But yeah.
Where did you get the name Maroon 5 from?
The name?
Yeah.
Why did you have to ask me? You're so cute. I don't want to say no. It's a secret. We've never told anyone.
Is it really?
We've only told one person, and his name is Billy Joel.
Oh, really?
Because it was a moment, and he demanded I tell him, and I had to tell him, but he's the only one who knows.
Who came up with the name? All of you?
It's all secretive.
That's
it's
all
shrouded
secretive.
in secrecy.
All right.